Flaming Dragon Friday minus the Flaming Dragon. But other than that, it's exactly like every Friday. The Dragon himself is under the weather once again, which means we automatically hit the under, which means we continue to pitch a perfect game in 2024 when it comes to Flaming Dragon Fridays, which I couldn't be more proud of. But there's one guy in Columbus, Ohio right now that's not super proud of the way the offense has been performing lately, which in my opinion hasn't been the biggest problem. It's been one of many problems. And that's Ryan Day bringing in Bill O'Brien, former Alabama offensive coordinator, former Penn State head coach. So he knows the Big Ten. And obviously we know his stint in the NFL with the Houston Texans. And you may look at it and say, oh, well, Ryan Day he's scared now. He's trying to shuffle things up. He's trying to make a change, even though he's the top 5 winning coach in college football, but he keeps losing the most important game that Ohio State plays. It's not a postseason game. It isn't a college football playoff game or a Big Ten championship game. It's the game versus Michigan. You've lost 3 in a row. So I think making a move is necessary. It's a must. And what a better move to make when something is not working than yourself as the leader, as the king of the program, as the head coach, taking a slice of humble pie and giving up the play calling duties. Now, it may work. It may not work. Most people don't like Bill O'Brien, but he is an incredible offensive mind. He really is. Not saying that everything is perfect and he's always going to make the right call, but he's been in multiple systems, right? He's called his own plays. He understands how to use heavy personnel, how to use light personnel, and I'm very interested to see what he does with Will Howard at Ohio State. Will it be more Bryce Young-ish in Alabama where it's a big RPO game with a guy and a quarterback that can actually run the ball that's kind of downhill? Or will you get more of a pro-style offense and try and turn Will Howard into something that he hasn't been and be a refined passer? But either way, it takes a lot of guts to give up what you're best at, especially at a time where you need it the most. So on one hand, yes, Ohio State fans should be worried. You never know how change is the outcome of it, what it's going to turn into. But at some point, you got to give the man his flowers for at least trying to do something different and starting with himself. So a guy that knows that rivalry better than just about anybody, understands what's going down in Ohio State right now and how important this next year is, especially getting Michigan at home. This former Wolverine quarterback, David Cohn, and my co-host here on this Flaming Dragon Friday. DC, interesting times for Ohio State. What's your initial reaction when reports came out that Bill O'Brien has taken himself and his dimpled chin to Columbus to try and fix it?
Very interesting indeed. Look, Bill O'Brien is a really good football coach. He's been a head coach in the NFL, had some successful seasons, had some bad seasons, been a head coach at the college level, helped Penn State, guide them out of that Joe Paterno, Jerry Sandusky era. And he's been an offensive coordinator for Nick Saban and Bill Belichick the last 3 seasons. Hey, I've heard of them, right? Let me tell you why I find this news odd this morning for 3 main reasons. One, even when he was the offensive coordinator for Nick Saban and Bill Belichick most recently, he hasn't necessarily been on a heater. Despite having the Heisman Trophy winning quarterback at Alabama, that team didn't win a national championship. It's the first 3-year stint where Nick Saban didn't win one. And in New England this past season, it was so bad on offense that 6-time Super Bowl champ Bill Belichick has been run out of town. So while Bill O'Brien is a great offensive mind, it's not like he's on a heater having his best seasons right now. 2, the offense is not the problem to me in Columbus. I understand we can talk about them maybe being a little more physical in the run game, but I thought that Ryan Day was the play calling guru. I thought he was the offensive mastermind who was the OC for Urban Meyer, and that he wanted to call plays that, bringing in Jim Knowles to run the defense was the piece of the puzzle that I thought was the biggest. And they're going to have all sorts of players returning. They're going to have a lot of depth. They're going to be just fine, probably open as the favorite to win the conference if Jim Harbaugh does leave Michigan. But the third reason too, Jake, is you're bringing in Will Howard to play quarterback from Kansas State, who is best when he's using his legs, right? Well, Bill O'Brien told Jalen Milroe when he was at Alabama, you probably shouldn't be playing quarterback. You should probably move positions. And that was a guy who just finished 6th on the Heisman Trophy list using his arms and his legs with his skill set. So is Bill O'Brien really the best option to get the most out of Will Howard? I don't know. He's a pro-style system offensive coordinator who's going to try and have to run some sort of RPO game, I believe, with Will Howard to get the most out of him. It just seems a little bit like the Buckeyes are casting a movie with all the biggest name actors they can find, but the script really hasn't been finished yet.
I like that comparison there. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. We are going to get to the Booster Club in our chat. Remember, if you donate and it's on topic, we will read it at the time. We typically have live calls. But obviously we're remote this week because of the snow in Nashville. We'll be taking those next week. Excited to talk to you guys. So like I said, make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. If you're just joining us and you're new, we really appreciate you guys hanging out. Welcome to the family. Here's what I'll say, David. To me, I'm not as much worried about how he'll adjust to Will Howard because I watched him at Alabama and Bryce Young really run an RPO offense down the stretch, if we're going to be honest. I mean, one of the biggest knocks, right, against Bill O'Brien was that they weren't really running the ball enough or running it effectively, and a lot of that was because Bryce Young would pull the RPO to throw it, right, in some times where you didn't need to do it, or maybe people thought he was trying to put the ball in his hands too much. So I know Bill O'Brien can adjust to his personnel. Will he is another question. You bring up Jalen Milroe, right? Can somebody do something and will somebody do something are two different things. And when I look at Ohio State right now, it's kind of a crux because, again, you've had a ton of success. You've won a lot of games. The only team you can't beat right now is Michigan, which is the biggest deal. I always say you can, on one hand, say we have one of the greatest rivalries in the sport, and it is, the game is, and if we go 1-11, as long as we beat our biggest rival at the end of the year, it's a successful year. Well, then on that same hand, you cannot say, oh, well, we've gone 11-1 the past 3 years, right? And the only team we've lost to is that rival game, but it's all good. It's only one loss and we're doing well. Those two things, in my opinion, cannot exist if you honestly believe that. So you're caught in a moment of, do I keep doing the same thing? Because for the most part, it's working, right? And because if I go and change something and make this drastic change, it may hurt us even more. But then on the other hand, if you don't make a change, it seems like this is acceptable to the fan base. We talked about something similar to this with South Carolina's fans and Auburn's fans, right? It's almost impossible to please everybody. You're not going to be able to please everybody. It's why you got to go with your gut and go with your instinct. That's why I'm shocked Ryan Day still isn't calling the plays, because Shane Beamer didn't really fire a lot of guys off the staff this past year that didn't make a bowl game. South Carolina fans were screaming, this must be the standard. This must be acceptable then. If nobody's going to get let go after a poor performance, then I guess we're just going to be mid forever. And then you look at Auburn, who gets rid of a couple coaches who are Auburn legacies. And everybody says, oh no, the sky is falling. It's a disaster. You have got to go with your gut. And if this is Ryan Day's gut, I'm looking at this overall, David, and I think it's a mistake. I think it's a mistake. I'll say the same thing that I did. I can understand why he's doing it, but I think it's a mistake. Gotcha. I understand going down on your own shield. If I am going to get run out of here with my ass going 11-1 every year, I'm going to get run out with me calling the plays. And like you said, the offense really hasn't been the problem. You had a young quarterback last year, right? And you ran into a once-in-a-generation Michigan team that had been building and kind of percolating for the last couple of years and then almost gotten there. So, to me, I get what he's doing. I understand why he's doing it. I just think it's a mistake because I'm going to go down on my own shield, D.
Yeah, it does seem like a weird time. Now, I'm just assuming that play calling duties are being handed off here when you name
O'Brien's not going down there to not call plays.
Yeah, so I mean, we are going out a little on a little bit of an assumption there, but I mean, I think it's a pretty safe one because Bill O'Brien's not going to come in unless he's actually going to call the plays, which to me, like, it just seems like a weird year because there is a lot of pressure. Imagine this: Ryan Day is top 5, top 6 in Power 5 football in terms of winning percentage. And yet, the past 3 years, we've talked about all this heat. Is Ryan Day on the hot seat? They made the college football playoff a year ago and played the champions, Georgia, to within 3 points. That's how much that Michigan game matters. And now, when you've lost 3 in a row, now's the time you want to transition into a CEO role. I don't know. It doesn't make a lot of sense, but I do want to talk about this offense that they had at Alabama when Bryce Young was Bill O'Brien's offensive coordinator. So they were running the RPO system, right? And look, Bill O'Brien's forgotten more football than I've ever known. I have no doubt he could design whatever type of offense you wanted. His willingness to do it, like you mentioned, I don't know. But with that RPO system, and it led to Bryce Young being the first quarterback in Alabama history to win the Heisman Trophy. They had a lot of success.
People forget that with BOB. People forget that.
Yeah, and look, he's had a lot of offensive success, a lot of accolades like that. But with that RPO system, it was truly run with the running back option and then pass on those slant routes and those seam routes. It wasn't Bryce Young running the football, right?
Yeah.
Now, I know Will Howard and Jalen Milroe are not exact comps to each other, but they're more similar to me than Will Howard and Bryce Young. I mean, when I've seen Will Howard be at his best, it's because the threat to use his legs, which was why it was already odd that Ryan Day would bring him in, because we've seen the CJ Strouds and you know, the type of quarterbacks like Dwayne Haskins that Ryan Day has coached at Ohio. Kyle McCord,
Yeah.
right? I mean, I guess Justin Fields is the one who could run 4-2, 4-3 and take off at any time. But even then, I don't remember Ryan Day using a lot of quarterback design runs. That was more in the scramble game for Justin Fields with the Buckeyes. So, you know, that's why it seems a little bit odd to me, just from like, one, Ryan Day was the play caller. Now you're going to hand that over and be a CEO type coach. And then Bill O'Brien being brought in. Are you just bringing in Bill O'Brien just to do it? Or is that the best option based off the pieces that you're going to have on the offensive side of the ball moving forward?
Well, David, again, like I'll go back to it, and I want to get to the Booster Club here. I want to know what Ohio State fans think, but you just wonder two things. One, does this mean Bill O'Brien wants to come back to college and stay in college? I find that very interesting, because if you go have success, he'll get a head coaching job pretty quickly at the collegiate level. He may just be tired of the NFL stuff. I don't know. The second thing is this making a change for the sake of making a change with a big name, right? Or is this just a huge mistake, right? Is this pointing to the fan base saying, hey, listen, I do want to change something. This isn't acceptable. As good as it's gone, it hasn't gone how we want it, right? And I'm going to bring in Bill O'Brien, a big name, to change it. You know, or does Ryan Day really believe he's the problem? I don't think Ryan Day really believes he's the problem. Yeah. I don't. I feel like he feels like this is a change that has to be made to kind of save face with what's been going on lately. But let's get to the Booster Club, see what they think, Dave.
We got a $5 donation from Tim here. He says, we've wrecked OSU. Go blue, triple exclamation mark.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's you had Ohio State fans during that big run where they were beating Michigan every year saying the same thing. So why would it not flip on its head? It got to the point where the AD walked in Jim Harbaugh's office and was like, you're not doing what we want you to do. We want some of our money back. It's a J.G. Wentworth situation. We want our money and we want it now. And Jim Harbaugh did that, and then he flipped the script. Now, obviously, when Urban Meyer leaves Ohio State, that helps too. But, I mean, yeah, again, when you are going 11-1, right, and talking about firing a coach, you have stabbed that other team in the heart. It's just the truth. And it'd be the same if it was Auburn, Alabama, and some of the best rivalries that there are. The only way you make up for that is by winning a national championship. And Ohio State has not done that. That's the only thing. And now with the 12-team playoff, I don't know how Ohio State fans would feel if you lost to Michigan for a fourth straight time, second straight time at home. You go to the college football playoff and you win it. Maybe that's the only elixir. But guess what? If you're not winning the Big Ten, you're probably not winning the national championship.
That's a good point. Well, our resident Buckeye fan, Steve's in here, and he responded to Tim. He said, really? 3 wins in a row and you have wrecked the Buckeyes? You're going to need a lot more than a three-peat to wreck us.
Well, yes. I mean, totally. The question is, you know, at what point, Cone, this is just such a weird dynamic, because at what point do you fire Ryan Day for not beating Michigan? Is it 5 in a row? Is it if he's going 11-1 and 10-2?
It's just
Like,
so weird we're even having this conversation because Michigan fans just had to deal with this. Jim Harbaugh was beating most everybody else. Some losses to Michigan State that shouldn't happen and not a lot of success in the postseason, but it was mainly he couldn't get over the Urban Meyer hump. He was winning everything else. He had revitalized the program in every other way, couldn't beat the Buckeyes, and Michigan fans were saying, when is enough enough? He lost 6 in a row, 7 in a row. Now he's 40-3 the last 3 seasons, 3 wins in a row, a national championship, and the shoe is now on the other foot with Ryan Day's beating everyone else that he faces.
yeah, and now we'll see what happens with Harbaugh. It may be that, a reverse Ryan Day. Now the Michigan coach leaves and he's able to take over and get an advantage or something like that. So again, we'll see. It's cyclical, but I will caution Ohio State fans this: do not burn down your own house. Do not burn down your own house, because do not forget, there are no more divisions in the Big Ten, right? So you could see a scenario where you get 2 cracks at them.
Or
right?
3.
Or 3 if you play them in the playoff, now that it's 12. So it's something that's going to be interesting to monitor. I'm glad the divisions are gone.
Ferris Khan says Ryan Cooper Day was born on third base and he got picked off.
Can never get picked up on third or make the last out at third. Listen, has Ryan Day, did he inherit a good situation? Yes, but I don't think on one hand you can downplay a guy for losing, 1 game a year, it seems like, and then on the other hand, not be able to sit back and say, hey, he's done some really good things too. I mean, he's won a lot of games. He's kept Ohio State championship relevant. But again, it's the one game you can't lose, right? And you can't lose it consistently. When you take that Ohio State job, or you take that Auburn job, or you take that whatever job in a big rivalry, I could go through the list, the litany of the list. There's teams that you cannot lose to too many times, right? We've seen this movie before. What got Mike Shula run out of town at Alabama? It wasn't because Alabama was going 5-7 every year. The man couldn't beat Auburn. He couldn't beat Auburn, and it got him run out of town. So it's part of the rivalry. You know that when you take the job, that's one of the hardest parts about the job. You can be damn near perfect and still get tossed off the boat.
Humping Badger wants to know, how much money would y'all bet on me to win a fight against Ryan Day?
Probably a lot, but I mean, you have to get out of the basement.
Get out of the basement first. Chris Walton says Buckeyes thought they were getting Caleb Downs. They got Bill O'Brien instead.
Yeah, I mean, it's I was very interested to see that come across the timeline. I did not see that one coming. Did not see it coming at all.
Another one here. This is interesting. Harbaugh staying at Michigan may be less important than keeping the pipeline with the Baltimore internship program going. Maybe it expands to 2 teams with Jim and John both in the NFL. I mean, if Jim Harbaugh is no longer at Michigan, I know that's his alma mater, and I know he's coached there. Is there going to be a willingness to send your position coaches to go be coordinators, as like a minor league system before they come be coordinators in the NFL? That's what's happening now.
So basically what you're telling me is the Ravens would be doing with the coaches what the Eagles are doing with Georgia and
Bama players. Yeah.
I mean, I don't think it's
finally we're getting
idea.
smart. I mean, we're probably under NCAA investigation already for that kind of maneuver, but
here's an idea for the Ravens. Why don't you just go get a bunch of Bama's and Georgia's players and then mix them with Michigan, put them all together, right? That's a Thanksgiving buffet.
All right. So again, Steve here, I like leaning on Steve for some Buckeyes information. He says Jim Knowles is the one who needs to go. He's been outdueled by Michigan 2 times in a row. Now, the second time they played, Jake, was a lot different. Obviously, in 2022, it was a lot of cover 0 in Columbus. J.J. McCarthy just torched them and took advantage of it. Different game plan this past time, and they played Michigan to within 6 points. But how do you feel about the defensive side of the ball with Jim Knowles?
Look, I mean, I think that was Ohio State's strength this year. I think it could be a strength, their strength next year. I know they've got some guys. They got the guard coming back. They got Ibuka coming back. They got Henderson coming back. Up front, they should be fine on the offensive line. I'm never going to worry with them at wide receiver. But I think their defense has a chance to be, a top 5 defense again. Here's the thing. Like, let's not act like Ohio State was like 8-4.
Yeah.
Okay. Like, They pretty much went undefeated outside of the Michigan game with Kyle McCord at quarterback. To me, it's neither side of the ball was bad. There wasn't a bad side of the ball for Ohio State. It just wasn't as good as the national champion, Michigan, right? So I don't think you blow up the whole city, right? Because the donut shop stopped working for 6 hours. Like, I'll tell Ohio State fans this. I've watched this movie before. Do not burn down the city, right? Because you weren't number one in everything yet. It's not time to panic yet. So I don't think Jim Knowles should be fired. I don't think Ryan Day should be fired. I think they should hold on to that staff. You got to make some changes, I guess, to show the fan base. I don't think as drastic as what we saw with Bill O'Brien. But again, I'm looking at it. I'm looking at the numbers. I'm looking at the record. Are they perfect? No. Are they pretty daggum good? Yes. So I will caution Ohio State fans. Do not panic yet. Do not panic yet. We'll see after this season. We'll see. But I just, again, it's a high class problem to have. Man, I would love to have this problem, right? Like as an Auburn guy, we're losing to Alabama and getting 7. Like, I would love to go 11-1 and lose to Bama, right? So, again, I would be easy with it.
$5 donation from Cantorius, saying this as a UM alum. You don't have to win the Big Ten to win the Natty anymore. 12 teams, crazy stuff can happen and will happen. It's certainly true. And even 2 years ago, we saw Georgia lose the SEC championship to Alabama, get revenge in the championship and win it.
No, without a doubt. I mean, look, does it help? Yes. Is it necessary now to be able to have a chance to win a national championship? No. I mean, again, you look at what happened in the ACC this year. Florida State, when the ACC went undefeated, wasn't able to get in the 4. That's done because we're going to 12. So, look, it's just like college basketball, right? You don't have to finish number 1 in the AP poll or the coaches poll at the end of the year or win your conference tournament at the end of the year to go win a national championship in basketball. It helps. To me, it shows you're playing some of your best ball at the end of the year, which is a must. So, look, I get it. But, man, I tell you what, when I look at this matchup coming down the stretch with what happens at Michigan, I don't know what Minter's going to do, right? But you could be setting up to have a Jesse Minter, Bill O'Brien rivalry game at the end of the year that from a personnel, motion, shift standpoint, I can't wait to see.
I can't wait either. I hope that happens because that means Jesse Minter stays. $5 donation from Chase Mills. Thoughts on Brian Shaw interviewing for the Chargers and Titans job? Always thought he would be a good NFL head coach.
Yeah, look, you're going to have guys that are cycled in and out of these interviews. How excited would Chargers fans be with Brian Shaw? I'm not 100% sure. Do I think he's the exact right guy to get it right now? I don't know. I think, to me, I would make a push for Harbaugh. I know that doesn't make Michigan fans very happy, but y'all know why I think he's hungry. It's the brother situation. So it's, again, whoever inherits the Chargers, I know they don't have their own practice facility. I know it's not the house on the Golden Hill, but you've got a team that's almost ready-made to go win if you get the right guy in there. I mean, you've got the quarterback in Herbert. We know defensively what they have and kind of what they've accrued. So, look, I want to see who they end up with. All his interviews are great. I'll talk about, Belichick's going to interview with the Falcons again for the 19th time. That's great. I want to see who you hire. But before we see who you hire, regardless of who you're a fan of, Michigan, Ohio State, Auburn, Alabama, Toledo, it doesn't matter. All right. You want good meat, right? You want good meat that's American sourced, right? You don't want to be getting it brought in from Cambodia, somewhere like that. You want it made right here in the good old USA. Nobody does it better than us. And you want to put some prep in your step with Good Ranchers this new year. All right. And they have a new meat special. It's delicious, it's safe, and it's convenient. And meal prep's just one box away. So ditch the mystery of the meat aisle and get American meat delivered right to your door instead. We've got the butcher's box coming again today. Really excited about all the steaks in there. We literally had Salisbury steak last night. It was incredible. But when you subscribe to any box of Good Ranchers, they'll add over 2 pounds. Listen to this. I need y'all to vibe with me. 2 pounds of pre-trimmed, better than organic chicken breast to your order for free. Not once, not twice, but every order for a year. And it'll change what you know about chicken. It's pasture raised, given 0 antibiotics or vaccines. And it's so tender and juicy, you won't believe it. Trust me on this. We've made every form of chicken in the Crane household. So go to goodranchers.com. Use our code BOOSTER. This helps out everybody, right? You, us, them, to enjoy free chicken in 2024 plus an additional $20 off your first order. So do it today. Change the way you buy meat. Switch to Good Ranchers. Subscribe today. Use our code BOOSTER. Claim over $200 in free chicken and New Year's savings. That's goodranchers.com. Use our code BOOSTER, BOOSTER. All right, David. Let's make this an All-American Reject song and move along.
All right, a couple more here. Midnight Crane to Georgia. Flaming Dragon Friday without the dragon is like Godzilla -1. And he said, at Jake Crane, can we get Jordan Peterson to come on the show to help grieving Alabama fans?
That would be an incredible situation. At some point, like knowing Dr. Peterson, by the end of that, I would like end up being like a croquet fan or something. Like it would just totally work. Like I'd leave there like pescatarian or something.
You can read minds. All right, $5 donation from F3 Shake and Bake. Bob isn't going to be the OC. He's going there to be the head coach. Day is taking an NFL job within 2 years. Remember, Shake and Bake told you so.
So you're telling me Bill O'Brien is leaving the NFL to go to Ohio State to be the head coach in waiting, so then Ryan Day can go to the NFL. It's an M. Night Shyamalan movie. Where's Joaquin Phoenix? Like, where are those people in those big village nest heads or whatever? It's that would be an interesting ending to the book. Who the hell knows? Who knows at the end of the day? It's going to be fun to watch, that's for sure.
Also, I think obviously when Chase typed Brian Shaw, but we were talking about David Shaw.
I knew what he meant. I knew what he meant. Now, because look, and there is something we know the Rooney Rule and things like that as well. Like we got to be able to walk outside and look around and know when something's up. Which, by the way, quickly sidebar, David Shaw, man, Stanford went downhill so fast.
I know.
Like, you remember? I mean, David, me and you are close to the same age. You remember Toby Gerhardt?
I remember all those guys,
Andrew
man.
Luck, Christian McCaffrey. Stanford used to be a problem. Like a legitimate problem. Not only would they beat you in an SAT score, like Toby Gerhardt would come in there and just run over you. Like this big white monster just running the ball and doing calculus like right after he scored.
Yeah, I mean, Jim Harbaugh was winning 12 games at Stanford, and then David Shaw was having success too. Now it's to the point where they couldn't find a conference there a couple months ago.
They were so bad on film. David, they were so bad. I have a guy I trust very, very, very much. Tell me that they had one of the worst rosters that he had ever seen on film.
Yeah, it was rough. All right, let's go to the NFL keys to victory, man. We got the divisional round this weekend. We're going to see the number 1 seeds in action for the first time. So why don't we start with the Houston Texans going on the road to Baltimore? Look, I think this is going to play out a lot different, Jake, because not only are the Texans on the road, but outdoors in the elements. The Ravens haven't had as much postseason success as they would have liked to under Lamar Jackson. I think they're going to be head hunting.
Look, I'm going to tell you right now, the Texans and the Packers aren't sneaking up on anybody this week, right? And I want to make sure and give them their flowers for what they did last week. And I don't think the Texans really snuck up on the Browns. I think the Packers kind of snuck up on the Cowboys, if we're going to be honest, because Cleveland, it's not like they're just used to going in the playoffs every year. Here's what I'll say. If you're the Texans, you're playing with house money once again. Go play free. Yeah, you want to win. Everybody wants to win. But nobody's going to be upset if you go to Baltimore, a team that very likely can win the Super Bowl, as well as they're playing it from a complementary and phase standpoint with all 3 phases, offense, defense, and special teams. But you've already overachieved so far beyond what anybody thought you were going to do. And that doesn't mean you stop. That doesn't mean you sit back and admire your work yet. No, there's still work to be done. But if we're going to be honest, I mean, why you talk different you did before? I mean, there are no expectations, right, at the end of the day. But then you look at the Ravens. If you're the Ravens, on that same note, you have got to kill their hope early. You've got to kill their hope early. Somewhere in the back of the Texans' mind, they know that the music and the ride's about to stop. The question is when and against who and where. If the Ravens come out and they jump on the Texans early and they put the Texans in a position where they're having to put the ball in the air in the elements that they're going to be in, we all know weather can change, but I've coached against Navy in Annapolis. I know how that weather gets. It's weird up there. If you kill their hope early, I think you can cruise in this one. There's a reason it's a 9-point spread, 9.5, depending on where you look in the sports book. But it seems to me that even if the Ravens come out and they're not playing good in one phase, that other phase is able to make up for it. Now, obviously, you want all 3 phases to be playing well at the same time, and that's been one of the Ravens' strengths. But if you kill their hope early, I think you can cruise in it. That's the key, because the longer you let these guys hang around and just hang around and hang around, C.J. Stroud has shown the ability, right? He can call his shot. He can make that play. He can change the game with one swing, and he's shown the ability to do it. But you get up enough, you're able to put them in a bad position, put them in a position that you can kind of dictate what you want to do defensively. I like the Ravens in this one, but to me, those are the keys.
Well, these teams opened the season against each other in Baltimore, and the Ravens won that one 25-9. Obviously, that was CJ Stroud's first start. And since then, I mean, the Ravens won 7 of their last 8, something like that. And they only lost when their starters were sitting out against the Steelers to end the season. I mean, they were on an absolute heater. To me, like CJ Stroud, obviously you can't go in there and turn the football over a lot. You have to stay as accurate as you have been in hitting Nico Collins, get the run game going, all the things that we already know. But on the defensive side of the football, D'Amico Ryans has to pitch his best game, right? You are the defensive mind, the defensive identity of the team. You're not going to completely shut down Lamar Jackson, but if you can make it ugly and make it a grinded out type game, maybe some of that mentality starts to seep in that, you know what, we've been one of those teams. We just got done talking about the Buckeyes. Maybe we're one of those teams that has been really good in the regular season the last few years, but maybe we can't win a playoff game. Sort of that Dallas mentality. I mean, it would be fitting that we see both those teams go down in back-to-back weeks. I just feel like this Baltimore Ravens team is coming to play with a different energy than the past couple seasons. You feel that way?
Yeah, I mean, they're just, and they're older, right? I don't think that the moment's going to be too big for Lamar, who's already done big things, we know. So again, it's going to be tough, but the Texans, what a year regardless.
And the biggest thing, he's healthy. Lamar's healthy too. Yeah. All right, so you talked a little bit about Green Bay. They're going to go on the road to San Francisco. We get to see the other number 1 seed who, I mean, they look like world beaters too from the NFC standpoint.
Yeah, and you heard the Shanahan say that they've been practicing for the Packers since the second quarter of the Packers-Cowboys game. And I do want to give the Packers their flowers, obviously. What Jordan Love and Matt LaFleur, my second favorite LaFleur, have been able to do has been really impressive as we continue to see Jordan Love grow. But this Niners team, similar to the Ravens team, is unbelievably complete. If you're the Packers, look, I can talk about playing with house money like it is with the Texans and go play free, and that's true. But at the end of the day, this run game is going to have to be as effective as it was against the Cowboys. That's what set everything up for Jordan Love. That's the reason Jordan Love went 16 of 21. There's a reason that Packers players are running more in more wide open space than a Dixie Chick song is because of that run game, what that offensive line was able to do. And when you look at what the Niners have in that front seven, I mean, it's like running into the fourth ring of hell. I mean, there's not a good answer. You go left, you go right, you go up the middle. I know they're not perfect, right? I'm not saying the Niners are perfect, but it is going to take the Packers are going to have to catch some serious breaks. Now, when I look at the tempo of this game, if I'm the Packers, I'm going to try and slow this thing down, right? I'm going to try and keep it low scoring, but we all know who's over on that other side. And it's Christian McCaffrey, and it's Deebo Samuel. I can go down the list. Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle. I can go down the list, right? And the offensive line's been playing pretty well. And then we have Brock, let's get dirty Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant there at quarterback. If you're the 49ers, to me, I think you lean on Christian McCaffrey, but I feel like this is one of those games where you're going to end up using him as a decoy more than anything. Because I do think you got to pick a poison, David. You're not going to be able to just line straight up and play even with the 49ers. It's just not going to work. So what do you say? We're going to load the box. Obviously, you match personnel with personnel and try and take away Christian McCaffrey and beat us Deebo Samuel, which he can. Beat us Jawan Jennings, which he can. Beat us George Kittle, which he can. Brandon Ayuk. Like I said, I can go down the list. So if you're the Niners and you get a lead, Kyle, run the ball. Do not give them any hope, right? And I know that the Super Bowl with the Falcons is kind of a one-off thing, I guess you could say. Don't get cute. The Niners don't have to get cute. They don't have to have some sort of special package put in this game. You need to line up and go be better. And when they take one thing away, go to your matchups, which we know the game is all about, and you have more good ones than just about anybody when it comes to personnel, and take advantage of it. This isn't a, hey, Dad, look at me. Look how special I can be situation for Kyle Shanahan. Run what you run, bud.
Some of the concepts Matt LaFleur was drawing up for the Packers against the Cowboys were just blowing my mind. Even when
Well,
they had a
because the run
mega
game
lead.
was working to me. That
Yeah,
was the big reason.
of course, of course. Even when they had a mega lead, they're throwing tight end shallow rail to the backside for
Yeah.
wide open touchdowns. It was incredible. I don't see that happening against the 49ers. It's going to be a little bit more grindy and a little bit ugly for Jordan Love on the offensive side of the ball. My question is, can the Packers defense sort of do the same thing against the 49ers? Can you keep it close enough in the fourth quarter so that you have a shot? I mean, that would be a win to me.
Yeah. Look, I'm with you. You know what that was like for Matt LaFleur last week? Like it's like the time where you may not be the best singer. And look, I've got a lot of respect for Matt and his ability to call plays. I mean, look at where it's gotten him. Like you may not be the best singer, but there's always that one time y'all went to karaoke where you just murdered it, like in the best way. You're like everything was working.
Yeah.
Like I was singing Creed, I was singing Fallout Boy. I even mixed it up and went little David Allen Coe or something like that, and it's just working. The girls loved it. You were on pitch. You were harmonizing. You were just in the zone, right? You had the mix right. There's always those couple times. Well, that was it for Matt LaFleur last week. I mean, he was literally spitting gold. So we'll see if he can do it again.
Well, let's keep the analogy going. Maybe that's because you went to karaoke for the first time without one of your boys who kind of is always a problem and kind of has been a distraction, and that's Aaron Rodgers. Now you go into karaoke. You're the underdog. You feel free, you feel confident. You blow it out of the water. Now you got a little momentum going, and now you're going up and you're going to sing against a guy who wasn't there last week. He got the first round bye. He didn't show up. Maybe his voice is a little rusty. Maybe the Packers come to play and say, "Hey, we're gonna go ahead and get the number 1 seed out of the way too."
Yeah, you better not forget the words. They're on the screen.
All right, we'll stay in the NFC. We talked a little bit about Tampa Bay against Detroit yesterday, but I'm getting more and more intrigued by this matchup. But this is the true underdog story, right? Baker Mayfield's got the Bucs in the playoffs against the Lions, who are just having the whole state of Michigan right now. You can't tell them a thing, okay, with what's going on with Michigan football and the Lions. This line was at 6.5. I'm going to be talking about this in locks, leans, and dogs. But how are you leaning on this one?
God, I'm rooting for the Lions. I'm not gonna lie. I think it's a great story. I watched the Buccaneers, and I like Baker. I watched the Buccaneers win one with Tom Brady. I wish we could actually see a Buccaneer fight a Lion. I think that'd be a really, really cool matchup. But you look at two teams to me that are polar opposites, and it's weird. And I'm not saying Detroit is soft. They're not soft, and we know their head coach Dan Campbell is basically a walking refrigerator, just going to headbutt everything in his way. But when I look at the Buccaneers, they're not sexy. They're not flashy. What a year Mike Evans has had in a money year when he was told that we're not going to renew your contract down the stretch. I don't know. You may want to rethink that. But when I look at the Buccaneers, it's Rachaad White downhill. It's Baker Mayfield off play action. A lot of it is intermediate to short throws, long drives, and play defense. I know the secondary has been a little bit hit or miss for the Buccaneers. I love Carlton Davis, Jamel Dean, Auburn guys. I know they have some pieces on defense that have come through for them lately. Then you look at the Lions. I think of the Lions. I think of a fast track indoors. I think of Jared Goff, the gumball smuggler, slinging the rock around to St. Brown, J-Mo. We know what Jameer can do running the ball and catching the ball. David Montgomery's been a really good add. The offensive line's kind of come along. I just worry about the Lions defense not falling into the trap of how the Buccaneers play. Because I know that every team wants to play at their pace. Every team wants to set the tone, especially when you're at home, especially in the playoffs. But if the Lions defense isn't able to stop the run or slow down what Rachaad White and them are doing, we know what that opens up. But most importantly, it controls the tempo and the tone of the game. The Buccaneers do not want this game in the 30s, right? They want this game in the high teens to low 20s. They want it to be ugly. It doesn't need to be a Miss America contest, right? It needs to be a bail hearing. That's what it needs to be for the Buccaneers. Now, the Lions, on the other hand, right, they want to get it and go with Ben Johnson, the wizard, right? The boy with the scar on his forehead that everybody just absolutely in love with right now. They've got a really good thing going, but they want it to be they want it to be fast. They want to hit home runs, right? They want to make it back-to-back, and it's kind of an onslaught. So which one of these defenses is going to allow the offense to set the tone? Because I think it is massive in this game. If you get past 27 points, I think the Buccaneers are in trouble.
Okay, yeah. No, I think that's safe. I mean, the Bucks clearly identified the Eagles' weakness last weekend and said we're going to exploit it from the jump, passing right from the get-go. Baker off play action last week looked like he was suiting up in an Oklahoma Sooners jersey still. The
Mhm.
problem is, this Lions team, they haven't fallen off a cliff the way that Eagles team was, and they can score in the blink of an eye too. I'm really interested in the Todd Bowles defensive matchup against what Ben Johnson's going to do on the offensive side of the football. And look, having Sam Laporta back last weekend for the Lions, I was
Yeah.
shocked he was able to play with a hyperextended knee. I can't wait for this game. Hey, did you see when the reporter asked Bucks head coach Todd Bowles if he was going to make any adjustments when they go and play in the freezing temperatures in Detroit?
Yeah, I saw it. You know who I felt bad for? I felt
Hmm.
bad for all the female reporters that actually know what they're talking about,
Yeah,
because there are some that do. There's some, and we got to be able to respect that. Like, I
yeah.
love football enough. I want everybody to enjoy it, right? And there's some females out there that do a really good job
Tracy
of doing their
Wolfson,
research. Tracy Wolfson, Susie
Sage
Colbert,
Steele.
Sage Steele. I can go down the list of females that do a really good job. This is what happens, I think, when you have to check off a box. And if you don't know what happened, a female reporter asked Todd Bowles how they're going to handle the elements playing the Lions in bad weather. What I guess she didn't realize, or maybe she had gone to get a pineapple on her birthday in Hawaii and swerved to miss a cow and hit a tree, is that the Lions play in a dome. They play inside. I would hate to know what you would ask a basketball coach. How do you not know that? Like, male, female, both, half of one, a toaster. I don't know. You've got to know that. Like, you can just walk in the door or drive around the city, right, and figure that out. You don't have to be some savant to know that the Lions
The best
don't.
part, though,
Did you see his face?
no.
He was like,
Yeah, yeah. He did say, "Well, we're they have a dome, right?" But then he said, "No, we'll only be outside for about 20 seconds on the walk in, so we'll
"Oh,
be
I know.
good."
It's such a that was, you know how they always say, 'Hey, there's no such thing as a stupid question.'" You remember, like, they used to say that in school? You used to be like, "All right, don't be afraid to ask questions. There's not a stupid question." Well, you cracked the code, lady, because that's
Now,
the dumbest ass question I ever heard in my life.
if the roof starts leaking mid-game and there are elements, the joke's gonna be on all the rest of us, but
Yeah,
we'll
it's
wait
like,
and see.
well, it's just I don't know how you make that mistake. But I do want to say one more thing about the Buccaneers. Don't get lulled to sleep by how the Bucks won last week. Look at how they've won most of their games. Right? There's a formula for the Bucks to beat good teams. The Eagles just, I mean, it was a disaster. It was an abject disaster. So I wouldn't be lulled to sleep by the Eagles' inability to stop the big plays from the Buccaneers. That's not going to happen on a consistent basis with the way this team is built and the way they operate.
All right, man. Chiefs, Bills, Patrick Mahomes going to Josh Allen. This is round 7. They will have faced each other, I think, the third time in the playoffs. I know you're taking the Bills. You got the Bills possibly winning the Super Bowl. The closer we get to it, man, the more I'm feeling Chiefs in this thing.
Really?
Yeah, I'm
What's making you feel that?
Patrick Mahomes and defending
Well, that
Super
makes
Bowl
sense.
champs and the way they
Yeah,
played
yeah,
last week and Travis
yeah.
Kelce and Taylor Swift swag surfing. There's like this whole I can't get this mental picture out of my head.
Yeah, well, that's what they want. It's working.
Did I say
Um,
Andy Reid? Did I say the way Pacheco runs?
yeah, God, if
Steve
Josh Allen
Spagnuolo on
if
defense.
if Josh Allen ran as hard as Isaiah Pacheco, it would kill
Oh,
somebody,
oh
like,
yeah.
legitimately. Here's what I'll say, and I'll continue to do it. At some point, you gotta get over the hump. If you're ever gonna do it for the Buffalo Bills, now is the time, right? It didn't go pretty early. Maybe it had to happen like this. Maybe you had to struggle early, right? You don't always just get to send the immortals down there through the hot gates and kill Leonidas. Like, sometimes it doesn't go that smooth. Sometimes you got to have the hunchback show you the goat path. And that's what the Bills have taken this year. They've taken the goat path, started out bad, came back, won the AFC East. Now you get the Chiefs at home. And I feel like the Bills are playing some of their best ball. The Chiefs, I know they won it last year with a roster that wasn't great. This one's even worse. I know the defense has really stepped up this year, but Josh Allen's legs are the difference. They take down Patrick Mahomes, a.k.a. Josh Allen's Pennywise, this weekend. This is, I feel, the best about it that I've ever felt about it. If you don't do it this year, you're never going to do it.
Hmm.
You're just never going to do it, because the Chiefs Won't be this bad again with Patrick Mahomes. I don't think they're going to go get another receiver next year. Just watch, right? And the window is closing for the Buffalo Bills. And the frustration that would be had if they lost this game in Buffalo, people would be jumping through tables just because they were pissed, not because they were getting ready for a game, right? So I like the Bills. I think they finally go down in that gutter and they take out Pennywise, aka Patrick Mahomes.
So when you say Josh Allen's legs will be the difference, do you think that's going to include a lot of quarterback design run or just off the scramble game?
I think most of it will come off the scramble game. I think a lot of it depends on how the weather ends up being and how the Chiefs kind of play him. I thought what the Bills did in the quick game and in the passing game last week was fantastic. They got the ball to Diggs a lot, and they got it to him early on easy throws and then let him go to work after it, even when they got the lead. But Josh Allen, right, he's one of those few painters where, hey, if you want the Andy Warhol chicken noodle soup can, he can do that, right? But he can also do the Jackson Pollock. Right? Why am I pouring paint all over myself and just running around and rubbing it against the wall? And how did that sell for $6 million? Josh Allen is dangerous when he improvises, and he's dangerous when he's in the pocket. He's a complete player to me. Now, I know the turnovers have been an issue. We've looked at what happened since Brian Daboll left, but it seems like he's kind of turned the corner on that. We all know he has the tools. He has the skill set. And I don't think – and when you watch him run, you see how big he is and how he's able to move. Like on that 52-yard touchdown last week, you're kind of in awe. But I tell you, the thing that impresses me the most about Josh Allen is most guys with a big arm like that, they're a one-trick pony when it comes to throwing the ball. Yeah, they can fit it in there. Yeah, they can throw the fastball. They can throw the whole shot. I thought Josh Allen's touch has been the reason that he's been able to have the success that he's had and will allow him to win a Super Bowl eventually. And I'm telling you, the more I look at it, I like the Bills to win the Super Bowl this year, David. And it starts by taking out Pennywise.
Yeah.
And that happens this weekend.
So the over-under is 45.5 right now. I know most people are going to be hammering the over just given the quarterbacks and the offensive minds involved in this game. What are the chances we see something like a 23-20 game and really the defenses just show up and it's a scrappy affair?
Well, as drunk as the NFL's been, who knows? It could be 13-10 or it could be 37-34. I think a lot of it depends on, when you look at the Chiefs, how effective is Pacheco in the run game, right? Because if it turns into Patrick's out here creating, yes, he can create, but it hasn't hit on the same level that it's hit because the personnel around him isn't what it has been, right? We've seen Travis Kelce have a good year, but not really a Travis Kelce type year. Rashee Rice, thank God for the Chiefs, has come on because there's not a lot out there, right? I can go create, right? I can dribble the ball between my legs. I can dribble behind my back. But at some point, I got to pass it, and you got to put the ball in the basket, right? So I think a lot of it comes down to the run game. And then if you're the Bills, right, how do you handle Chris Jones and that defensive front? I think they're equipped to handle it. I think James Cook's going to have a big day. I think that's one of the reasons the Bills are going to win this game.
All right, we got a $5 donation here from Brad David. Said, Jake, what is the interview process like for coaches? What are some of the questions they ask you?
Well, a lot of it depends on, if you're talking about being a head coach, going to interview for a job and the athletic director is interviewing you, that's one thing. If you're an assistant or if you're trying to be an assistant, going and working for a head coach, that's another thing. I mean, if we're talking about just head coaches, the first thing is what is your plan? What is your plan to utilize what we do best here? If you're talking the NFL, that's way different than college, right? But so if I need you to be more specific if you want to know the questions that are asked, it depends on the circumstance. But if we're talking about Bill O'Brien and Ryan Day, I'm guessing most of it was not periphery stuff. It was straight ball. It was X's and O's. It was, hey, let's turn on the tape. What do you like here? What did you not like here? What would you do differently when you watch us? What do you think? What is your plan? What are your goals? Do you eventually want to be a head coach? Which the answer to that before you ask it when talking to a guy like Bill O'Brien. I would have loved to sat in the film room with Ryan Day and Bill O'Brien and just watch them go over the 11 personnel stuff, what they have coming back personnel roster-wise. Hey, we got Igbuka. We got an experienced offensive line. We got a defense we feel good about, so we may be able to take some chances or we can be dangerous but also safe. It just depends on the circumstance.
So when you were interviewing to be a position coach, would you only interview with the coordinator or would you interview with the coordinator and the head coach?
You would talk to both. typically. Now both were about different things because it's the defensive coordinator, AOKs. If you're in there interviewing, right, outside of it just being a true favor to somebody else, if you're in there interviewing, they already feel good about your ability to adapt to their system. They just want to see how you communicate and how you interact and kind of get a feel for you, right? When you're going to the head coach, he's not going to sit here and ask you, if you're trying to be the DB's coach, hey, what's your favorite coverage or this, the defensive coordinator already signed off on you on that part. He's going to get to know you as a person, kind of feel you out as well, see how you interact with the players. Hey, let's go walk by the weight room real quick. They're in there lifting weights, talk to a few guys, dap them up, be a cool kid, but have my feelings too. Change my life through Oprah and Maya Angelou. So it's, again, there is ball, but they know ball before you step through the door, right? So it's just proving that from the coordinator if you're interviewing to be a position coach. Then when you go to the head coach, it's more of a, how are you as a person? Mm-hmm. How do you fit in here personally?
All right, here we got Bubbly Gut in the chat said, what happened to CJ Stroud being simple Jack? That S2 test is worthless. People should just watch game films when assessing talent. I'm so glad I went out on a limb for CJ Stroud last year.
Yeah, you nailed this one. Came out. You nailed this one. I just, like, if I'm interviewing somebody to be a chef, like, I'm not going to ask you about, like, the history of World War I. Like, I don't need to know if you know that. Like, here's what I need. How good are you at cooking? That's what I need. Here, make this, chef. Make this meatloaf or whatever, or tartare or something fancy like that. Like, if I'm hiring you to be a car mechanic, right? I don't need you to be able to, like, point me on a map where Ukraine is. I need you to be able to fix that tire, dog, or those brakes. Why? This just goes back to, I'm telling you, this happens a lot, David, and you know this. Guys screw up draft picks because when you sit around in a room and talk about it for so long, you end up coming up with bad ideas and talking yourself into stupid things, right? We talk about guys getting too cute, calling plays. There are guys that get way too cute when it comes to drafting players. Somebody thought it'd be a good idea. They're like, hey, what if when drafting a player, we make them take this S2 test, right? It really has nothing to do with, hey, you play quarterback, what coverage is this, where you should go with the ball? But it's like, finish this pattern. 1, 7, clown picture. B, picture of a jet. What's the next one? I don't need to know if you know that. like it's a bunch of guys that love ball, getting around. It's just like they're watching tape together and they're like talking themselves like, man, Brett Rippon just watches. The more I'm watching, the more I'm liking him. The more I'm watching, the more I'm liking him. It's like, it's a real thing and it happens everywhere. So yeah, is it nice that, why don't you just look at what they made on, like, the ACT or the SAT out of high school?
Yeah.
Like, why don't you just look at that? Like, wow, look, oh boy, made it 28.
If I'm going to pay a 22-year-old, millions and millions of dollars, I'm fine with getting as much information as possible. Run all the tests you want. It's just, don't weigh those tests more than you should. Weigh them appropriately. That should all come as, like, tiebreaker stuff when you can't make a decision between a couple guys. Watch the game film first. Get to know them as a person. Look at their character as well. I think their character is another aspect that complements the game film. And who had better character coming out than CJ Stroud? I don't think there was any red flags or anything from that standpoint, but I didn't think he'd be doing what he's doing right now, winning playoff games this early, but it's been incredible.
Yeah. I'm not going to be like, hey, it's our ability to draft CJ Stroud depends on how fast he can figure out a Rubik's Cube.
Yeah.
Like, I don't need that.
Yeah.
I don't
now,
need
if you can do a Rubik's Cube, do it. Show me. I'd like to know. I'll check that box, but I'm not going to put that above the way you played against Georgia in the playoff game.
That's exactly right.
All right. Steve Jewell here. Lamar, this is a good deep dive. Lamar has played in 4 playoff games in which his team was favored at home. Jackson is 1-3 in those games and 1-3 against the spread. All 4 of those games have gone under their total. That's good information.
That is good information, but I'm not a trends guy, because you know who knows that? Lamar Jackson. Yeah, Lamar knows that. It's football is such a, there are things you can control, then there's things you can't control. I don't buy into the, oh well, the past 3 years this has happened, so this necessarily is going to happen again. If that was the case, everything would always be the same. Nothing would ever change. Michigan would have never gotten over the hump, right? They would have never gotten over Ohio State. then they would have never gotten the playoff. And then if they did get in the playoff, they would never won a game in the playoff. It doesn't work like that. So I almost think that if I was a trends guy, I would almost go against the trend, right? Because it feels like Lamar Jackson this year feels different for Lamar. He feels more complete to me as a quarterback. I think a lot of it has to do with the team around him as well. He's actually got weapons, right? Let's not forget the Ravens had me running around out there at wide receiver, okay, for a long time. You give Lamar weapons, right? You give a dangerous guy weapons, you know what he does? He uses them. That's why dictators are horrifying.
Here's another interesting stat. Lamar will also be coming into this game with 20 days of rest. When he is coming off at least 12 days of rest, he is 1-6 against the spread. How do you feel about that?
I just don't believe that him getting to rest is a bad thing. Like, would you rather not be able to rest? Would you rather be like beat up and tired? Like, I just feel like that has no, and I love that you did this. I appreciate you putting it in there. We appreciate you watching, but I just feel like that has no bearing on what is going to happen this weekend. Absolutely. Like, at what point during the game is Lamar Jackson, we have it to the first quarter and it's going to be like, oh my God, I'm rested. Mistake. Like, I don't know. I don't buy it.
I was already kind of leaning towards the under in this game, but maybe I should go ahead and lock that in. I don't know.
Maybe you should, David.
I like that deep dive. All right, $5 donation here from Heartbroken Hog. There are 6 QBs that have won playoff games with multiple teams. Manning, Brady, Favre, and Montana. Who are the other 2?
All right, say that again.
There are 6 NFL QBs that have won playoff games with multiple teams. Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, Brett Favre, Joe Montana. Who are the other 2? Answer below.
Who are the other 2 that have won playoff games with multiple teams?
Now, how far back are we going here?
This feels like it's far back.
Earl Morrall won games with the Colts and the Dolphins when Shula brought him over.
Oh, Earl. God, I'm not sure. I'm running through my. It's obviously not Phillip Rivers, right? Not Andrew Luck. Matt Stafford.
I don't think Matt Stafford won a playoff game in Detroit.
Years.
Yeah.
God, man. I don't know, dude. I feel like it's almost like a backup, right? Like it's Chad Henne or something like that.
It's not Joe Flacco after losing last week.
Is it Nick Foles? No, I don't know. It's a good one.
All right, we'll have to think about that.
I'm gonna be pulling my hair out about that one. But if you're pulling your hair out, or maybe you're worried about losing your hair, right? Maybe it runs in the family, right? You got to look good to play good. We talk about that all the time, whether it's in the dating game, whether it's just in the game of life, right? You want to go in that business meeting, you want to set the tone with a good head of hair. And if you're one of the millions of American men and women that's dealing with premature hair loss, maybe you're scared about inheriting that thinning look because it runs in the family, like I said. Well, you can start 2024 off right with a real solution that delivers on its promise without the harsh side effects, unwanted chemicals, and there's no need for a prescription. That's Provia, all right? And if you want your confidence back and you don't want to worry about something that is bad for you, I'm telling you guys, ladies, it can be very discreet. This stuff works. They use a safe natural ingredient. It's called Procapil to effectively target the 3 main causes of premature hair thinning and loss. And right now, you can save over 50% plus free shipping on Provia's introductory package at proviahair.com/booster. That's PROVIA hair.com/booster, BOOSTER. And every package includes a full 60-day supply of Provia serum for daily use, plus the Provia super concentrate for faster, more noticeable results. And every order includes your choice of a free gift. At checkout, it works guaranteed or 100% of your money back. That's the best guarantee that you can have. So don't wait. Order now. Save an extra 10% in free shipping at proviahair.com/booster. That's proviahair.com/booster. I'm telling you, if you don't like what you're seeing, if it's affecting you, give them a chance. proviahair.com/booster. You will not be disappointed. The best way to get ahead.
How about these 2 names, Jake? Jared Goff and Baker Mayfield.
Are the 2?
Goff with the
Lions and Rams, right?
Goff now won one with the Lions, and he won with the Rams when they went on their Super Bowl run. Now, Baker, didn't he lead the Browns to that first playoff win? And he also filled in for Stafford last year. They didn't make the playoffs with the Rams. But I think he won a game with the Browns, didn't he?
I can't believe I didn't get the Jared Goff one. The Baker Mayfield, I'm I wasn't going to get. The Jared Goff one I should have gotten. Maybe, and I said Matt Stafford in thinking Jared Goff. That's what I'm going to go with, D.
All right. You want to get to locks, leans, and dogs?
Yeah, let's get to locks, leans, and dogs here. Are we able to throw those graphics up on the screen, Justine, or am I just going to read them straight from off here because I feel great about it?
Oh, there we go.
Here we go. All right, now I will say, I am not picking. I'm going to go straight to my dogs. All right, because I had to have underdogs on here. If I had to pick underdogs, it would be the Texans at plus 330 and the Bucs at plus 235, but I don't think either one of those teams are going to win. So here's my locks. All right, here's where we're going to lock it in. Give me the 49ers minus 9.5 at home. That's right. I'm telling you guys right now, the Packers, they're not sneaking up Elmer Fudd style on the 49ers after they just destroyed Dallas last week. Thank God the Rangers won the World Series. Shout out Will Kane. Now, give me the Bills. They finally do it. They're going to beat the Chiefs at home. And you know what? They may beat them by double digits, David. They really might. I'm telling you, I'm feeling it. I got a feeling. It's in a Black Eyed Peas song. So give me the Bills. Minus 2.5. That's a minus 120. And then my leans. I'm going anytime touchdowns. The Gus bus. Gus Edwards. Probably wouldn't be a bad idea to take him as a first touchdown scorer because something is telling me in this weather, the Ravens are going to take the ball down the field. They're going to get it about the 3-yard line, and they're going to ram Gus through that wall 2 times in a row, and he's going to score. And then David Montgomery. That's at minus 130 for the Lions. They get inside the 5. Dan Campbell is feeding this man. He is feeding this man. Don't think you'd be crazy to parlay that. Maybe, if you're feeling dangerous, Gus Edwards, first touchdown. David Montgomery, first touchdown. Parlayed together. Congrats, mama. We made it.
All right, Booster Club, listen up and listen closely because I'm only going to say these once. Here's what you're locking in. Travis Kelce, anytime touchdown at plus 140. Yes, you get the plus money there. I don't care about anything else. I don't care about the Taylor Swift and all the drama and she's ruining football. I don't care this guy has a Pfizer vaccine coursing through his veins. Travis Kelce's going to be in the end zone with the football, okay? He's going to catch it from Patrick Mahomes. Anytime touchdown plus money, lock it in. How about another lock? Bucs plus 6.5. I'm going to be pulling for the Detroit Lions. I'm just going to go ahead and tell you that right now. It's a true underdog story, Cinderella story, state of Michigan. It's awesome. But Bucs plus 6.5, the way they've been playing, you can get that at minus 108. It's playoff football, baby. Let's see a close game. Here's what I'm leaning towards, Jake. How about Justin Tucker, the greatest kicker in NFL history, over 1.5 field goals in a game like this? We just talked about how the under might come into play, the elements with the weather. Over 1.5 field goals for Justin Tucker at minus 125. That's what I'm leaning towards. And then Green Bay, San Francisco, under 50.5, minus 110. This is my riskiest pick yet. The unders did not work out for me last weekend, but we talk about this all the time. 2 offensive-minded head coaches, 2 offensive gurus. The spread's getting bet up. The over's getting bet up to 50.5. I'm thinking, hey, playoff football again. All it takes is one of these defenses to really show up, and the under could hit under 50.5. That's what I'm leaning towards. And then the dog picks. Go ahead and give me the Chiefs plus 124. If you can get the defending champions, Patrick Mahomes, with Andy Reid as his head coach, and Travis Kelce with a Steve Spagnuolo defense, and plus money in a playoff game, I'm going to go ahead and take that. And then, like I said, I'll be pulling for the Lions, but the Bucs at plus 235, that's a lot of good value there. The game's going to be inside, like we just talked about. There's not going to have to be a whole lot of elements for this Florida team to have to deal with. That's what you should be locking in, Booster Club.
All right, Blaine is going to take the Bucs and the Chiefs as well, David. He's right there with you as far as a dog standpoint. His locks, he's going to go Texans, Ravens under 43.5. That's a U. That's at minus 110. Then he's going to go Bucs plus 6.5. Bet buds with David at minus 108. Then his leans, the Chiefs plus 3.5. That's at minus 130. He's going to rock with me at anytime touchdown with David Montgomery. That he got it at minus 115. If you can get it at minus 115 and not minus 130, please do your dance. Do your dance. But those are the locks, leans, and dogs there, David.
I love it. Blake in the chat says, I'm a Chiefs fan lifelong, but Travis Kelce has cost me a lot of money this year.
Yeah, man. I mean, look, is it a coincidence? Who knows? I'm not one of those guys that is just like, I'm just going to hate on Taylor Swift. I hate on Taylor Swift, but I'm almost actively rooting against Travis Kelce not to score just so I don't have to see it. But then they show her when he doesn't do good. They show her when he does good. They show her when he doesn't do good. You're just, at this point, you're just not escaping it, right? You're just not.
All right. Kyle Kennedy says, I think this is a parlay here. 49ers minus 2.5, Ravens minus 2.5, Chiefs plus 9.5, plus 130 on the bet. Who blows it?
Man, I like that. I'm going to go Chiefs. Like I said, I think that if anybody's going to blow it, I think you're going to hit at plus 130.
That's
I
a
think
good
that's a
bet.
good it's a good bet. But if anybody's going to blow that, like I said, watch the Bills win by 10. That's why that 9.5 scares me. Why not buy it up to 10.5, Kyle? Why not? It's just going to knock it down a little bit, but you feel so much better. That 10.5 number, it just keeps you warm and safe, and it just nurtures you. It's like 7.5 or plus 3.5. It's protection. It's almost insurance.
Do you think the extra long layoff for the 49ers starters will hurt them? Rested starters last game of regular season, then had a bye.
No, this isn't like baseball. Like in baseball, I think it does hurt you. I think not seeing live pitching in a live game, it does hurt you if you wait too long. In football, it's not like guys are going to forget how to tackle, or you're going to forget the speed of the game. I don't think it has that big of an effect. I think it helps the Niners, who we know have been dealing with some injuries all year. I think it helps them more than anything, maybe more than anyone.
People are going back and forth whether David Montgomery or Jahmyr Gibbs might score inside the goal line. You had Montgomery anytime touchdown?
Montgomery, I'm
Yeah.
Montgomery anytime. I think the question, they probably both will score, right? I don't think you'd be crazy to take both as an anytime touchdown. Maybe if you're feeling dangerous, you think they're going to score 3 times. Throw the Sun God in there too, or maybe Sammy Laporta, the Laporta potty out there running around. But when you look at least Dan Campbell, when he gets inside the 5, it seems like he likes to go with the battering ram, which you have thunder and lightning, right? The David Montgomery is the thunder, Jahmyr Gibbs is the lightning. What a great problem to have. If you're going first touchdown score, that's where it gets weird. Because if somebody's going to score from the 10 or outside, to me, it's Jahmyr Gibbs. If somebody's going to score from inside the 10, it's David Montgomery. It's just who gets tackled where. That's what it comes down to.
All right, new Alabama head coach Kalen DeBoer has made at least one decision when it comes to quarterback. We've been talking about this for the last week, but after seeing 9 players exit the program through the transfer portal, he is adding Washington quarterback Austin Mack. So Mack signed with Washington in the 2023 class out of California. He was originally part of that 24 class, but he reclassified. He took a redshirt year and did not play behind Michael Penix Jr. So we still have no word on whether former Mississippi State quarterback Will Rogers is going to come from Washington after transferring, but Austin Mack is going to come and be a quarterback for the Alabama Crimson Tide. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, well, as far as the Will Rogers thing, I think he would have done it by now. I think the biggest thing it tells you is that Kalen DeBoer accepted Austin Mack coming to Alabama. That tells you what Kalen DeBoer thinks of Austin Mack. He's 6'6". He's long. He's got a big arm. Has to speed up his release a little bit, but he may have done that during his redshirt year. Yeah, I think it speaks volumes about who Kalen DeBoer thinks this guy's going to be. And there's a reason he signed him at Washington. Washington's not some little brother of the poor at quarterback. I mean, you just had a guy in Michael Penix that blew it out of the water. So Kalen knows what he's looking at the quarterback position. He obviously trusts Austin Mack, and I'm going to trust Kalen DeBoer to bring in a guy that can put them in a good position to win.
Yeah, no doubt. I don't think this is anything that is going to lead to like Jalen Milroe transferring.
Jalen Milroe isn't scared of competition either.
Yeah,
I don't think Jalen Milroe's built like to be afraid of competition, especially a redshirt freshman coming in. Jalen Milroe's never lost an SEC game as a starter.
Yeah, that's true.
Let's not forget that.
That's true. And, I just think that by this much time passing, Kalen DeBoer and Jalen Milroe have already sat down several times. They've talked about the goals and the future of the program. So I don't see this being anything that's going to, lead to him heading out or anything. The next thing I wanted to talk about was what do you make of this online Twitter beef right now between Robert Griffin III and former Redskins coach Jay Gruden?
It seems like a play to me. That's what it seems like. Both are in media, right? With Jay Gruden and RG3. Not that there wasn't some animus back then, but this just, I don't know, it didn't feel organic to me the way this started. I don't know what those guys' relationship is off the field now that they're done playing. I know, obviously, if you look at the Twitter beef that's going on between Jay and RG3 right now. Basically, RG3 said that Jay Gruden said he should put some pressure on his teammates during a press conference. RG3 said something that got taken out of context, and then Jay Gruden didn't have his back. Blase. I don't know. I think a lot of stuff is kind of preconceived, right? I would not be surprised if this was a play by RG3 and Jay Gruden, and it's working. I mean, it's something that blew up, and
The
you got
first
now
I
Will
saw
Thompson's
was
in it.
yeah, Jay Gruden had tweeted something about protecting quarterbacks, and, like, I apologize to any quarterbacks if I ever let them, like, get blown up in blitzes like this, and Robert Griffin III tweeted something like, "Oh, oh, really?" Yeah, like, talking about himself, and it escalated from there. I mean, Jay Gruden said, "You weren't good enough. Kirk was better. Cleveland didn't want you. Baltimore didn't either. Quit blaming me," and then deleted that tweet.
Like, I don't know. It's just like we're really doing this. Like we're really doing this like on social media. And I get it. It gets clicks. It just doesn't feel organic to me, man. I go off my gut. It seems contrived and out of nowhere. Like just totally, completely out of nowhere.
Man, Jay Gruden just kinda, like, disappeared from the coaching
Hell, so
circuit
did
after.
John.
Yeah, well, yeah, we know about that one. I mean, is Jay Gruden gonna be a head coach again?
I don't think so.
Really?
No, I don't think so. I mean, especially if you're having, Twitter beeps or X beeps or whatever they are. It's just, look, I mean, at some point, y'all get together. I'm sure they'll get together on, and you know how sometimes it's contrived. What's the first thing RG3 said? Hey, why don't you come on my show? We'll talk about it.
Oh,
Me and
yeah.
you'll talk about it. Ooh, wow, man. Talk about turning something bad into something good. That definitely wasn't planned. I don't know. I was born at night, but not last night.
All right, let me check the chat here. No donations. I'm just monitoring what everyone's talking about. Let's see.
Indiana plays Wisconsin tonight. We can wrap early. Let's just go to bets.
John Gruden works for the Saints as a consultant. I didn't know that.
Yeah, he probably worked. Yeah. I mean, look, John, I'm sure John consults with a lot of people. I mean, he still gets up at like 3 a.m. and turns film on for 13 hours.
Yeah, we got to get John another shot somewhere. All right, that's all the donations for today. We do have a poll though.
All
So
right,
I'll ask you, was Bill O'Brien a good hire for the Buckeyes? Yes or no?
Well, people just don't like Bill O'Brien in general. So I'm going to say they said no, 59%.
No, 63%.
Yep.
There's
like people I think look at Bill O'Brien's face. He has such an unlikable face. I think that's a lot of it, to be honest with you. Because there were times at Alabama where it was amazing. They hated him, and then they beat Georgia, and they loved him, right? And then they hated him. It's a weird situation. He's not the best, but he for sure isn't the worst.
Well, it should be a good weekend, man. I'm ready for these playoff games.
Yep.
I don't get as excited for the NFL as I do high-level college football games, but when the playoffs are on, I do enjoy it, man.
Oh,
the
for
playoffs
sure.
of any sport are elite,
especially with the matchups that we're getting this weekend. But
yeah.
All right, 1-1 yesterday. Go back to the college basketball well again tonight. Give me Wisconsin at home. I trusted Indiana to cover 9.5 at home against Purdue. Indiana, it's so sad what's happening on this basketball program. Talk about irrelevance. Give me Wisconsin at home. Give me the Badgers -11 tonight. That's going off at -110. And then Colorado State, UNLV. Give me the over at 145. The under, that's where the money's on right now, -115. Give me the over, -105. UNLV can fill it up, and Colorado State's at home.
All right, I'm going to tweet out my picks later. I'm trying to talk myself into taking some Australian Open picks. I love picking tennis, and I think my percentage on getting picks right in tennis is high. You just never know when the matches are actually going to take place. You bet one, and it could take place on Sunday. So I'm going to tweet mine out later.
All right, man. Sounds good. Well, I hope everybody has a good week. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. We're going to be back in the studio. Blaine will be back on Monday, so we'll be back to normal a little bit. I'm looking at the snow. It's actually kind of melted somewhat, right? And as I say that, there are more snow flurries. Are you absolutely kidding me? All right.
Enjoy it.
Yeah. I'm really going to enjoy it. And like I wish the snow would be, we're gone.